Hey y'all, I am back and I have more of your paranormal stories that I'm super nervous to read today. We're gonna hop right into the stories. This first one is an update and I don't remember which video part 1 was in. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea. I know it wasn't that long ago, but this is update, my son sees dead people. Essentially in the first part, her son was having paranormal experiences and they went and saw a psychic or a medium or somebody and they told them this would happen for the rest of their life. So yeah, that's like good summary of what happened. Hey Courtney, thanks for sharing my story, or should I say my son's story, on your channel. I wanted to give you an update on the things that have happened over the last 6 months since we left Montana. We have become accustomed to seeing and hearing things. Most things we see and hear don't feel threatening at all. We were told by a medium that most are just curious and want to feel my aura. I'm not sure how it works for the conduit, but I know I try to make my son feel comfortable so he doesn't feel frustrated or scared. When he wants to show me a friend he's made, I acknowledge him even though I don't see or hear what he does. Since we've been in Michigan, my son has made a friend who makes herself known in big ways. She's a little girl around 7 or 8 years old. I see her often and he interacts with her daily. If she is around and we don't acknowledge her, she throws a tantrum as a child would. She throws things like toys or sippy cups. I'm convinced she hides things like my keys or my lighter and cigarettes. I've lost 6 lighters in 2 weeks and I always put them with my cigarettes. The first day I saw her, I was lying in bed. My son was asleep and I kept hearing things in the bathroom. I kept ignoring it because I've learned that's the best thing to do. Now, I started seeing things, but I ignore it. I see people often, people who others can't see, and I think it has to do with my son. But on this night, she wasn't gonna let me ignore her. The bedside light began flickering and the temperature dropped in the room. You know that eerie feeling when you think you're being watched? Well, that's what it felt like. I had seen movement out of the corner of my eye and didn't turn my head until it didn't go away. When I turned my head, there she stood. She was staring straight at me. A little girl in a flower sundress with shoulder-length brown hair. Her eyes were bloodshot and were an icy blue color. She stood there, looking at me. And once I acknowledged her, "Hello," I said in a shaky voice, she fucking smiled. Now, had this been a normal, alive child, it would have been fine. But to see a see-through child standing in my bedroom, grinning from ear to ear, was the single scariest thing I've ever seen. And remember, I've seen a lot the last 3 years. I closed my eyes tightly, shaking all over, and when I was brave enough to open them, she was gone, and I could have sworn I heard a little girl giggle. She was fucking laughing at me. I believe she thinks scaring me is funny. One day I was lying in bed and went to the bathroom. When I came out, there she was, standing in the corner of the room near my side of the bed with her face in the corner staring at the floor. This time she wore the same dress, but it was tattered and dirty. Her hair was messy and matted together. I froze. I could not move. When I had seen her slowly start to turn towards me, I jumped on my bed and threw the covers over my son and I and started praying. I swear she fucking giggled. She never scares my son. I see him talking and playing with who I assume is her daily. I've been taking him to playdates because I want him to socialize. Last night was the last time I had seen a spirit. It was an old man standing by my door. He had pale skin and almost white eyes. He was pointing at me like he wanted to tell me something. He was terrifying. He had a bloody scar on his face and his shirt was torn and covered in blood. "Leave us alone, just leave us alone," I screamed with my eyes closed, and when I opened them, he was gone. My fear is, what if this little girl isn't a little girl, but using it as a way to get close to us? My friend who reads my son often is coming over next week. Hopefully we get an answer. I'll update you when I know more. Until then, stay safe and keep killing it. I literally can't, there's no part of me that can fathom any of that you just told me. Like, what the fuck? Like, I just can't. I can't. It's so scary. It is so scary. It's like okay, I don't know, for some reason, seeing a ghost child is the scariest thing to me. Like, it's one thing to see a man standing in the corner of your room, not a real man. If it was a real man, that'd be different. But it's one thing to see like a man standing in the corner of your room, like a shadow of a man or a shadow of a tall figure, whatever. It's scary as fuck. But like to see a small child and to hear them laughing at you and see them smiling at you, different story. Different story. No. This next story says, paranormal experiences in Europe. Hey gang, it's been a while. Obligatory, I'm on mobile and also not proofreading. We die like men. Before I get into this, quick trigger warning. Mentions of concentration camps, the Holocaust, World War II, suicidal thoughts, and death. I just got back from a school trip to Europe based around World War II. We stopped in London, Paris, Normandy, and Amsterdam. These experiences took place in London, St. Paul's, Normandy, Le Combe German War Cemetery, and Amsterdam, Camp Vought. And then they included names for everyone in the story, but there's a lot of people in this story, so I'm not going to go through all the people. We're just going to pretend like we know what you're talking about when we read the story. They said I'll go in chronological order, so St. Paul's is up first. As soon as we walked into the cathedral, me and Eliza had a heavy feeling. This probably caused by our unhealthy relationship with religion. All was well on the main floor, aside from a few headaches and nausea. So we headed down to the crypt. Eliza and Sawyer went ahead of us, so it was just me and my mom. I was immediately hit with waves of nausea and overwhelming sadness. I assumed I was just put off by the name. I didn't think anything was actually down there. And then, okay, so they didn't proofread, so I'm a little confused. I'm gonna read it word for word. It says, I and it down the stairs normally, but as soon as I hit the floor, it was like I was being dragged down. I have been trying to figure out what she meant for like 5 minutes. I'm like, I was walking down the stairs normally? Like, I don't know. We're just gonna read it verbatim. Like something was wrapped around my ankles, pulling me into the floor. I could feel the fingers around my ankles. I was confused and terrified, so I immediately looked at the floor. I was standing on a grave. I looked around the floor. All of the tiles were headstones. We were walking all over headstones. I thought maybe it was just the headstones until I read, buried here. I was walking on people, dead people. I immediately jumped onto a blank tile and stared at the floor. As soon as I was off the tiles, the fingers were gone. My mom looked uneasy too, but she hadn't looked down yet. She looked at me, confused, until she saw me staring at the floor. She followed my gaze and, like me, immediately jumped to a blank tile. I wanted to go upstairs and leave, but my mom wanted to see the Florence Nightingale Memorial. That's taken me a while to say. So we walked on, trying to avoid the tiles. Eventually we got separated at the main memorial section. I was reading the World War II memorials and my mom went off to the Florence Nightingale. Eventually I was left alone at the World War II section. Completely alone. No one was around me. Which is why I freaked the fuck out when I felt someone pull my hair back from my shoulder and sort of grab my waist the way people do when they're trying to get past you. Does that make sense? Yes. I turned around and started tearing up when I didn't see anyone there. I ran out of the memorial and towards the exit where I ran into my mom, Sawyer, and Eliza. Eliza or Eliza? Eliza? We're gonna say Eliza. Eliza saw I looked uneasy and I noticed she looked off as well. Sawyer walked us towards the exit while my mom went towards the gift shop. I went to meet up with my mom and tried to get through the shop as quick as possible so we could leave. As soon as we stepped outside, I immediately felt lighter. The sick feeling left and I felt normal. Eliza seemed lighter too. We sat on the steps with our group and waited till we could leave. Next up, I'm not going to say this right, Le Camp German War Cemetery. Again, as soon as we walked into the cemetery, me, Eliza, and Sawyer immediately felt sick. Eliza, the smart one of us, stayed at the front entrance and didn't go into the actual cemetery. I walked ahead of the group and walked towards a hill in the center of the cemetery. I don't know how to explain this hill. Basically, it's really tall with a few graves at the base and stairs leading up to the statue in the center. Now let me reiterate, the hill is extremely tall. Like if you were to jump or fall, you'd at least be severely injured. So I walk up the stairs and lean against the railing. Now some background on me. I have severe anxiety and depression and I've suffered from suicidal ideation in the past. Also, I don't know German. I don't speak it, can't write it, and sure as hell can't understand it. This is relevant soon. So I'm leaning against the railing, the only one on the backside of the statue. From behind me, I hear a gruff male voice telling me to jump. Problem with this? No one was behind me. There were no men in our group who sounded like that, and it was in German. Clear German. Definitely not English. But I understood every word. When I didn't turn around, the voice turned to broken English with a heavy German accent. Then the same thing in the crypt happened again. Something brushed my hair away from my shoulder. At this, I turned around, desperately hoping it was Eliza playing a prank on me or one of the guys from my group trying to freak me out. Nope, no one was there. I ran back down the stairs, straight past my mom and Sawyer, and sprinted towards the entrance, where Eliza had been the whole time. I dropped onto the stairs next to her and started crying. I made her promise not to tell my mom. I didn't want her to know. She would never believe me and it would probably piss her off, as usual. And finally, Camp Vought. Maybe Vought? I don't know. This was the final day of our trip, easily the heaviest as well. After my experience at the cemetery, I was questioning if I should even go at all. But Eliza was going in and I didn't want her to be alone due to some personal things that happened the day before. Originally, I was walking around with her and Sawyer, but she got a call relating to the aforementioned personal stuff, so I let them talk that over. I didn't want to bother them or anything, so I walked ahead. I was walking with Levi, Lo, Jay, and Prince. We walked through the main yard and the barracks as usual. We were quiet, almost scared to speak. The demeanor was obviously dark and heavy. However, the barracks and main yard were rebuilt. They weren't the original buildings, until we got to the crematorium. It was the original building with the original furnaces and ash pits. We had been occasionally talking before, checking in with each other. As soon as we got to the door of the crematorium, that immediately stopped. We were completely silent, walking around listening to the audio tour. At this point, Lo had lagged behind us with Bree, and Levi had walked ahead of all of us. Stupid tall people and their long legs. Jay and Prince walked ahead of me in the crematorium. I was avoiding walking through the examined furnace rooms. By the time I'd walked to the furnace room, Jay and Prince had left. Lo chose not to go through the crematorium, and Bree was on the opposite end of the building. I was, again, completely alone in the furnace room. I was already freaked out. Being in the original room with the original furnaces and buckets they'd used to carry the ashes out. I was looking in the furnaces, half expecting to see someone in there, or maybe someone to come out of them. I don't know. As I was getting ready to leave, I heard footsteps behind me. I was relieved that finally Bree had caught up with me. I turned around to greet her and asked her to walk out with me. As I turned around, I hear a horrible hacking cough and smelled cigarette smoke. I immediately knew this wasn't Bree. I turned completely and saw a tall shadow staring at me from the door frame. I turned right the fuck around and sprinted out of the building, completely bypassing the pattern knocking on the wall in the mobile furnace room. The empty mobile furnace room. I turned the corner outside and nearly stumbled directly onto one of the old ash pits. Wonderful. I started walking normally, trying not to look crazy when I heard whistling behind me. I didn't recognize the song, but I recognized the horrible smell of cigarette smoke again. I turned around again, hoping it was Bree. I think you know where this is going. No one was there. I ran back to see if maybe I was just hearing Bree whistling as she was walking through. As I got back to the door, Bree was just turning into the furnace room. Great. I ran to catch up with Prince and Jay and followed them into the main building. I did not want to be alone. The bus ride back was quiet. Almost everyone had some odd experience at the camp and no one wanted to talk about it. That night, when we got back to the hotel, we were a bit more upbeat. We'd had a Dutch cooking class after the camp to bring everyone's mood back up. I was emptying my jacket pockets from the day. I had the usual, bus tickets, camp maps, brochures, etc., as well as a small white rock. I'd been picking up rocks throughout the trip, but I hadn't taken anything that day. I didn't want to take anything from the camp. It felt disrespectful, but this rock was familiar. I'd seen it at the Children's Memorial outside the crematorium at Camp Foot. It's Butterbot, I don't know. The memorial was decorated with painted rocks and toys people had left, but the rock in my pocket was one of the few plain ones. I showed it to my mom and she immediately threw it in the trash. She didn't want to take it home with us. She had had her own experience at the camp and didn't want anything from that camp coming home with us. I didn't blame her. There was one thing I didn't tell her though. When we got home, I went in her suitcase to get the bag with my allergy medication. When I pulled it out, I accidentally pulled up a pair of jeans with it, and out of the pocket fell a small rock. The same rock I had watched her throw away at the hotel in Amsterdam. I didn't want to tell her. I knew it would freak her out. So I panicked and shoved it back in the suitcase with her jeans. I should have taken it out and thrown it away or something, I know, but now I just have to wait for her to find it. Added info. I didn't know this, but apparently my mom found the rock. She didn't want to touch it, so now we have a haunted rock in our basement or something. All around the trip was fun. I would definitely go back if it wasn't for the plane ride. I just pray to whatever is out there that these things don't happen again. I don't know how to end this, so I guess that's all. Thank you for reading. I am like so jealous because I want to go to those places so bad, but that scares the living shit out of me, and it makes me not want to go. But I want to go so bad. I want to go to Germany and Poland and all those places so bad. And I want to do all the museums and all the learning and I want to do all this stuff. But I don't want to have a paranormal experience. I really don't, especially like that. No thank you. Someone telling me to jump off a fucking hill and the brushing past you and the cigarette smoke and this, I can't. And this last story, trigger warning for suicide. I will give you a second to click off. The title is The Hanging Man, so we know what's gonna happen. Hi everybody. So to start, this is a tale my parents and siblings would tell me when I was a kid. The problem was, as I got older, I learned it was much more real than I thought. To explain, I'm the youngest of 4. I have my eldest brother who is 8 years older, my eldest sister who is 5 years older, and my brother who could have been my twin. He was only 3 years older, but developmentally was the same brain age as me. We lived in a 2-story, 3 if you count the basement, 80-year-old house. To lay it out, when you walked in, the stairs were directly to the right, and to the left was the living room, which had a large opening to the dining room. Off that was the kitchen, and the ever-creepy stairs leading to the basement. If you went up the stairs, halfway up was my parents' room above the garage, and past that was the bathroom and 2 bedrooms. Now, the 1 bedroom used to be the master until the people before us built the one my parents stay in, and the other, barely bigger than a dorm room, was the one my sister and I shared. This is important to the story. It started when I was maybe 3, that I would notice a man in the hallway from my bunk. I was on the bottom till I made my sister switch. It wasn't really like a full figure. He was white, but I couldn't see through him. For a long time, he would just stare into our room, and I wouldn't move a muscle. It wasn't until 5 that I would tell anyone about my late-night visitor. That's when I learned about 2 honors ago, a man hung himself in my closet. We never knew his name, just that he was older and alone. As I got older, he would come closer and closer to my door, until one night I saw a set of old, dirty fingers begin to crawl around the edge of the door. I cried for my big sister and made her switch bunks with me. I was so terrified that he was coming for me. At that point, my siblings began to torment me. hiding in the dark, jumping out, groaning in the closet. I was terrified. Weird stuff was always happening during all times of the day. Doors would randomly lock and unlock. From downstairs, you would hear footsteps upstairs even if no one was up there. Most of our animals would not even enter the upstairs. They would also bark and stare at a specific wall column that stood between the dining room and living room. At night, it was common to see a man's figure in the hallway or the living room. Many times, my dad would have to check the garage because he would hear tools being turned on and shuffling noises. This went on for years. By the time I was a teenager and lived in the big room because my brothers had moved out, I would always hear someone in the room next door. My friends hated staying over because of it. And of course, as I got older, this feeling of sadness and evil seemed to grow. It was like the second I was outside, I felt calm. Now here's the tough thing. My dad told me a few weeks ago the man who hung himself never existed, so then what the hell is in my house? All my friends, siblings, and parents agree to hearing and seeing things even though most don't believe. So what is there? Recently, while most of the banging and unexplainable has stopped, something else has begun. I've started hearing one of my many porcelain dolls moving at night. Unfortunately, I feel that whatever's in my home may have entered my favorite porcelain doll. My cat suddenly started hissing at this thing. It's the size of a small child with realistic eyes and hair. I got it brand new when I was 13 or so. I never got bad vibes from it until recent years. Now most nights I hear it moving about in its spot or other areas, but whenever I look, it's right where it should be. I started putting stuff in front of it because it scares me so bad. I have 5 Raggedy Ann dolls and about 7 porcelain dolls. None of them scare me like this one does. I can't explain, but it's evil. I just know it. Sorry if the story isn't the greatest, but it's hard for me to talk about this without getting scared. I have so much other stuff that has happened in this house. This didn't even touch the surface. I left out everything to do with the attic that the previous owners didn't even disclose, as well as one of the worst areas of the basement. Let me know if you want to hear about them. Of course! You guys don't have to ask. I want to hear everything. But that is... so what? They just like came up with this story that a man hung himself, but you were seeing a man. So it's almost like, were they actually making it up? Or are they like saying they made it up to try and make you feel better? I don't know. What is going on? I'm just curious because they said he hung himself in your closet, and if it was only haunting your room, like you stopped seeing him when you switch rooms, but you would still hear stuff in your old bedroom, it makes me feel like it actually did happen, and they're just saying that it didn't to maybe like try to make it go away, but it's not going to go away. I don't know. That's just my theory. That is all I'm going to read for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other stories you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. If you guys didn't notice, I started posting shorts. So I'm going to start doing like the really short stories that you guys have in shorts. And I typically can't read every single detail, so I'm taking like the most important parts. So if you see your story being read and it's not like the entirety of the story, I'm taking out the most important parts because shorts can only be so long. So if you keep your eye out for shorts, your story might be included in one if it's a shorter story. I've been enjoying doing it. It takes me like 2 seconds. I don't know why I didn't do shorts for the longest time. Like shorts have been a thing for forever now, and I like refused to do them for the longest time, and now I'm like, I'm just gonna upload a bunch of shorts because I might as well. I have so many stories to get through. Like I have so many stories on the subreddit, and a lot of them are really short, and so I feel like it's like perfect for that. And a lot of you guys seem to be enjoying them. At least I read some of the comments. I try not to read comments just because I get really like, I'm really sensitive and I hate reading the mean comments, and I've talked about that before, but I do peek at comments every once in a while, and most of my comments are so nice, but it's just like that one mean comment just like gets to you, I don't know. And so I typically don't read comments, but I do at the same time. I do read comments, I just say I don't. And I just like peek, I don't like go through and read every single one. I'll just like read the top 3 or like the most recent 3 kind of thing, but I do that very often. But it seems like you guys are enjoying the shorts. I'm enjoying making the shorts, so yeah. But I'm gonna go. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye. I don't think I have anything to say. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't done anything. I went to a bar crawl this last weekend, but that wasn't, like nothing happened. Like there's nothing exciting to tell you about. I didn't like get like super fucked up. Whatever. I think I want to try, I don't know. I want to go to like haunted places again. Like I've only been to like a couple haunted places, but I really want to stay in more haunted places and do more like overnight vlogs. Not necessarily like with like you like recording myself sleeping and like you see if anything happens, but like just vlogging my experience at the haunted places, whatever, and if anything happens, it happens. But I like doing those types of vlogs. I don't really, because people tell me to vlog all the time. They're like, just vlog your day to day. I don't do anything. I do nothing in my day to day. But I like doing vlogs where I like travel. I think that's fun. So I think I'm gonna try to stay in a haunted place soon and do like a vlog. Like I did that for Jerome a couple times, I think, and I did like something similar for Alcatraz. It wasn't necessarily a vlog, but it was like I like filmed my experience and did like a voiceover. So I think I want to do something like that again, like soon. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Tell me your thoughts. But I'm gonna go because I really have nothing else to say to you. I'm sorry. I love you.